But this has given me the chance for the ultimate freedom, the opportunity to build a life of my own, with my own hands, on my own terms. Before I started working in the legal brothels of Nevada, I didn't know what to expect because it was incredibly difficult to gather specific information about the work, particularly when it came to any considerations about money. It is no secret that becoming a prostitute, even legally, comes with steep risks and sacrifices, and I needed to know that the potential rewards were significant enough to justify the decision to go into the industry. To make this determination, I had to answer the question of what one could reasonably expect in terms of revenue, and the fact of the matter was that the answer to this question was not available on the internet, largely due to the gatekeeping of pricing, which I have written about rather extensively in my blog posts. Due to this limitation, I decided that I had to go out into the world and gather the information myself. So I booked a flight to Las Vegas, rented a car, and called to make an appointment with a courtesan at one of the ranches. She was generous in sharing the intel that she had acquired over her 6 years in the industry, and not to mention she was quite the savant in bed, and provided me with several examples of benefits and drawbacks associated with working in the brothels. Upon her recommendation, I decided to visit a Leon cat house, where I ultimately decided to reside for my first tour. Nearly 4 years later, after the completion of many successful tours, consistently rising to the top of the hierarchy in the house as the top earner year after year, I am extremely satisfied regarding my decision to enter into the industry. Now, if you are watching this and are currently considering joining the industry, it is highly likely that you harbor the same questions I had when I started, particularly regarding the question of income. As I mentioned in my brothel guide for women who are curious about the industry, there are unique advantages and obstacles when it comes to relying upon the infrastructure of the brothel itself in order to make sales. To be sure, in very recent history, practically any woman who wished to enter the industry was likely to make 5 figures on average in a 2-week tour. However, despite the industry's relative stagnation since legalization in 1971, major shifts are rapidly occurring, and those who do not even intuitively understand the meta underneath these shifts are likely to be completely frozen out of the opportunity that was previously afforded to any randomly selected woman in the industry. Yes, it is still quite possible, despite this currently harsh and unpredictable environment, for some ladies to still easily make 5 figures per tour, but I personally am witnessing the majority of women end up on an unfortunate roller coaster of sometimes making close to those 5 figures, but more often than not finding themselves in situations where they leave owing the house for transportation, licensure, testing, and rent. Fortunately, I have access to infrastructure through Erotica Sinica that largely protects me from the current instability of the industry, and I am in a position where I can plan for what is to come in the near future with these upcoming shifts. By working in this industry, I'm not only building financial prosperity for myself, I am also able to improve my overall health, grow my skill sets in varied subjects, work on projects that are meaningful to me, and invest in my own entrepreneurship. Though the financial incentives are a significant part of what made this decision very beneficial, having the time to work on the things that are meaningful to me has been essential in assessing the normative value of my choice to enter this position. There certainly are drawbacks to living in the middle of nowhere for 2 weeks at a time, but there is no other industry that can compare when it comes to the time to money ratio. For example, when I was a teacher, I worked long hours with no overtime pay, and I was not making a livable salary for an individual person, demonstrated by the ever-growing credit card debt upon which I relied to cover basic expenses like groceries or an electric bill. Not only was I suffering from financial strain, but I also had zero time to rest or to work on developing skills or projects that were meaningful to me. Now, as a courtesan working as an independent contractor, I determine my own schedule, typically working 2 weeks at the brothel followed by 2 weeks off. I reside at the brothel for my entire tour, and I typically work between 10 a.m. and midnight, but I have the majority of that time to myself, which doesn't involve interacting with clients. There are days where I do not book any clients, but it is more common for me to book 1 or 2 per day, though on a couple of rare occasions I have booked up to 5 clients in a single day. Sessions with clients typically last from 20 minutes to 90 minutes, with some that elect to book for a few hours, and my regular clients often like to spend the night, which can range from 6 to 12 hours. The types of bookings vary, and some are more exhausting than others, but I usually have plenty of time to myself to rest and to work on the things I would like to work on. Regarding the time to money ratio, I frequently find myself making in 1 hour what I used to make in an entire month as a teacher. Furthermore, I also have the opportunity to make in an overnight session what I would make in an entire year as a teacher. Does this happen every night? No. However, it does happen sometimes. But if you are new, please be aware that overnight bookings are typically a result of a relationship built with an already established client rather than as a result of a spontaneous walk-in client. Given the schedule, I've been able to set aside the majority of my time to work on things I care about and start pouring resources into starting my own enterprises so that I can place myself in a position where I never have to be an employee again. I also have had the time to enroll in Erotica Sinica's Starlet training program, which, among other things, is comparable to working on a master's degree in an international liberal arts program, where I am reading essential literature, developing my writing skills, and studying Mandarin Chinese. The highlight of my time in the program thus far was the study abroad summer program in Beijing, where I was able to make strides in my understanding of Mandarin phonetics. My summers used to be dedicated to lesson planning and taking mind-numbing educational training courses, and now they're filled with actual skill building and international travel. A solid trade-off, if you ask me. Though it may be somewhat obvious, I feel compelled to mention that this line of work certainly is not for every woman, but this has given me the chance for the ultimate freedom, the opportunity to build a life of my own, with my own hands, on my own terms. For more information, please visit eroticasinica.com or email me directly at sheena.reed@pm.me.